Please confirm me that PowerPoint presentation is visible on your screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Thank you. So before starting anything else, let me say some punchlines what we have discussed so far. First thing you need to remember that if we would have data from population, what do I mean by this? That if the population we consider, we take data from the population and there is no concept of sample existed, in that case the entire statistics would be all what we have discussed previously. So there would not be a second branch of statistics, that is inferential statistics. So the entire statistics would be a descriptive statistics. We would never ever have all those tests like chi-square test, t-test, regression, correlation, ANOVA, F-test, CRD, RCBD, estimation, point estimation, interval estimation. So the entire inferential statistics would have not been existed if we do not have the sample, if the data source is from the population. So if the source of data is population, the entire statistics is just descriptive statistics. Either describe the data through proportions, either describe the data through center and dispersion. And you know that you can choose any of the tool to find out the center, and you can choose any tool to describe the dispersion. And then you can use the diagrams to present that data. And that's all what we would have in statistics if we have data only from the population. So even today, we have the same situation. If you will have in your lifetime, if you will going to analyze any data sets, if you have to perform any statistics, and you have a data source of population, in that case, what you need to do is only descriptive statistics. Describe the data through either proportions, center, dispersion, and then present it through diagrams, and that's all. But the limitation is that normally the population is very large. And most of the time you do not have the resources. Resources to screen entire population, to collect data from entire population. So the option you are left is that still what the option you are left with is to just take a sample, and on the basis of information from the sample, just decide something about population, and this is your inferential statistics. Is it clear? Is it clear? Are you listening? Any volunteer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now we will be discussing probability. Can anyone define what is probability? Have you ever heard this word probability? What is your probability to
It's sim-
pass the... Yes, please. I'm listening.
it's simply the chance.
Okay. What else?
Chance of happening of something.
So we define the probability as chance of occurrence of an event. That means when we calculate the probability, we are predicting the outcome. That's prediction. You are predicting the outcome. So how we calculate the probability? The formula of probability is very, very simple. But the probability itself is very, very much complex. Number of favorable events divided by total number of events. And this is the formula of probability, chance of occurrence of an event. So how you calculate the probability is simply number of favorable events, and then you need to divide it by total number of events. As far as the numerical value of probability is concerned, so when you will going to use that formula, number of favorable events divided by total number of, the numerical value of probability.
Yes, sir.
Lady, do you have any question? Just feel comfortable and ask. There is the person.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I'm listening. I'm waiting. Just please say something. Can anyone hear her voice?
Yes,
No,
sir.
sir.
What she was saying?
So she hasn't asked anything after that.
I thought maybe I got disconnected. I have this. So lady, please ask the question what you wanted to ask. Just feel comfortable and ask. I'm waiting for you.
Sir, I think you said, are you listening? He said yes.
Okay. So that's a very late response.
Yes.
Okay, I got disconnected and then I got connected again. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So it was, I lost my connection for only a few seconds. So the numerical value of probability is always between 1 and 1, 0 and 1. So when the numerical value is exactly 0, that means that outcome will not going to happen. So that event will not going to occur. It's impossible for that event to happen. Zero, exactly zero. And when the numerical value of probability, when the value of probability is exactly 1, that means the event will absolutely going to happen. There is no chance that this event will not happen. This event will definitely happen. So as you gradually move from 0 to 1, the chances of occurrence of an event starts to increase. And at 1, that event will absolutely going to happen. At 0, that event will not going to happen. So first thing, that we define the probability as chances of occurrence of an event. And how we calculate that those chances, we just divide total number of events. We just divide the number of favorable events by total number of events. And that's very number of favorable events divided by total number of events. And once you will going to divide, if your calculations are true, if you have calculated it appropriately, in that case, you will going to get a numerical value that is between 0 and 1. And the chances of occurrence of that event will going to increase with an increase of value. For example, if it is 0.5, these chances, they are more than 0.3. So with the chances, as the numerical value will move from 0 to 1, it will, the chances of event that occurrence of that event will going to increase. And at exactly 1, that event will absolutely going to happen. While at 0, that event will not going to happen at all. And these are all things that are mentioned here. That probability, if the probability is 0, that event will not going to occur. At 1, the event will certainly going to occur. So a physician may ask a patient that there are 50% chances. When there are 50% chances, there is half chance that person will going to survive. So it depends on what kind of circumstances they are. So when it comes to the experiment, a process of an observation or measurement generates well-defined outcome, the parasite count of malaria present entering the hospital, probability experiment. So that person directly switch to all these things. So if I will ask you that normally it starts with a coin. How many sides the coin has? We'll start the examples of probability with coin, and then we're going to switch to these examples. It has two sides. It has a head and it has a tail. So when you will going to toss a coin, and the coin is fair. Fair means it does not favors any side. What is the probability of getting a head? If I was going to ask you a question, that a fair coin is being tossed, what's the probability of getting a head?
50%.
So you just need to use a very simple formula. Probability is equal to number of favorable events divided by total number of events. So if a fair coin is being tossed, how many options do you have? With this, you have two options. First, that a fair coin has two sides. One is the head and other one is the tail. So total number of outcomes that are possible. Outcomes that are possible. That will be, one is the head, another one is 2. So your total number of outcomes, they are 2. So if I will ask you that a fair coin is being tossed, if the coin is fair, fair means it does not favors any side. So if a fair coin is being tossed, what's the probability of getting a head? And you say one event was favorable, while in total you have two events. So 1 by 2, that is equal to 50%, 0.5. So you have a 50% chance that you will going to get a head if the coin is fair. And now I will going to switch that question to a little bit complicated question. That a fair coin is being tossed 2 times. If a fair coin is being tossed 2 times, what is the probability of getting a head both times? So if a fair coin is being tossed 2 times, how many, first you need to calculate total number of events. So let's suppose if a fair coin is being tossed for the first time, either you can get a head and you can get a tail. So that's your first time. In the second time, there is a possibility that maybe you get a head on the first time and then you have another head next time. And there is another possibility that maybe in your first toss, when you toss for the first time, you have a head and then second time you may have a tail. There is also a possibility that maybe in your first toss you get a tail and then in your second toss you get a head. And then still it's possible that maybe in your first toss you get a tail and in your second toss you also get a tail. So how many total number of events are there if you toss a coin 2 times?
4.
So this is event number 1. This is event number 2. This is event number 3. And this is event number 4. So your total number of the most challenging thing in when you calculate the probability is always to just count the total number of events. Once you know the total number of events and once you know the total number of your desirable events, is very, very easy to calculate because formula probability is very simple. So your total number of events, they are 4. And what's the probability of getting 2 heads? So how many favorable events I have here? In the outcome, there is only one option. Here I have 2 heads, while here I have a head and a tail, and here I have a tail and a head, and here I have a tail. These are 4 events that can be in the outcome. So my desirable event is only 1 event. So that will be 1 by 4. That is equal to 0.25. If I will ask you, what is the probability of getting a head and a tail? A fair coin is being tossed 2 times. What's the probability of getting a head and a tail?
225.
It will be 2 by 4 because here you have a head and a tail and here you have a head and a tail. It will be 2 by 4, that is equal to 0.5. So you have a 50% chance of getting it. In this way, when it comes to the probability, these are very, very simple examples. That at any time when you need to calculate the probability rule will remain more or less same, that you need to know about the total number of events, and then the second thing that you need to know is your desirable events. Let me switch to some other slides. So this is written here that if a fair, what is a die? How many sides a die has?
6.
Normally we in So normally a dice has a 6 side. So so if I will ask you that a fair dice is being rolled, single should be dice and 2 should be. A fair dice is being rolled. That means that die is not favoring any sort. What is the probability of getting an even number?
50%.
So as far as the even numbers are concerned, I have 3 favorable outcomes, 1, 2, and 3. So they will be 3 by 6, that will be equal to 0.5. That is equal to 50%. That's perfect answer. And what is the probability of getting a number 3? It will be 1 by 6. And you can just calculate how much probability this is. 1 divided by 6, that is equal to 16%. So if a dice is fair, you have a 16% chance that you will have a number 3 in the outcome, and that also applies to the 4, 5, and 6. Another thing that you need to remember, that at any trial, when we talk about the probability, we talk about their occurrence in a large number of trials. In a single trial, you can have any outcome. And if you are going to repeat that experiment 2, 3, 4 times, maybe you will not going to get what you are expecting the probability. But when it comes to the large number of trials, the probability will more or less, you will going to get the results that are either on the probability or very close to the probability. So we started with the coin and then we moved towards the dice. And if I will ask you that if a fair dice is being rolled 2 times, what's the probability of getting a number, getting a sum equal to 12? So if I talk about the 2 dice, they are being rolled together and I need to sum of them. So once again, you can continue with the tree diagram, and you can continue with, I mean, it's all up to you that where you feel suitable. Both of them, they mean the same. So let me put the eraser, and here I will going to erase it. So if I will ask you that if a fair dice is being rolled twice, what's the probability of getting a sum equal to 2? A sum equal to 12. So if I was going to roll the dice once, I can get, if my dice is fair, I can get any of those 6 options. I can get a 1, I can get a 2, I can get a 3, I can get a 4, I can get a 5, and then I can get a 6. So if I have 1 in my first trial, my second event is absolutely even. So if I'm going to roll it again, it will have no influence on the second. So if I will have number 1 in my first trial, I can have any of those numbers in the second trial. So how many total outcomes are there? The same also applies with 2, that if I get number 2 in my first trial, I can get any of those numbers in my third trial. And in this, you can continue with this one as 1, and then with third, it also applies here. And if I have number 4 in my first trial, I do not have the space, that's why I'm just switching the position, otherwise tree will remain as it is, like branches. So with 4, I once again have 1, 2, 3, I can get any of those numbers, 4, 5, and then 6. And that also applies to the number 5 and 6 as well. So I can get a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those 6. And when it comes to the 6, once again, I can get any of those number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if I am going to count them,
Sir,
1 plus, yes, please.
Why second number increased from 6 to 7?
Where 6 to 7?
In number
Please
2
repeat.
dice.
So actually you wrote 7. The dice doesn't have 7.
Oh, sorry. So that's a mistake. Ignore it. Accept my apologies. So if you will going to add them, you will get a number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as a sum. And here with 2, you will going to get numbers like this: 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. With number 3, you will going to get like this: 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you're going to add them. And with 5, you can get a number like this: 5 with 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. If you're going to add the 5, you will get number like this: 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Daddy, thank you very much for telling me that is number 7 is not on the dice. It has only 6 options. I just missed it. And then I have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So how many total outcomes are there if a fair dice is being rolled twice? It's 36. Is it true?
Yes, sir.
So if I were going to ask you that if a fair dice is being rolled twice, what's the probability of getting a number 11?
Two times.
So number 11 is being occurs 2 times in 36. So it will be 2 by 36. That is equal to 1 by 18. And 1 by 18 means, just use your calculators. That is 0.05. So you have only 5% chance. 0.05, then when you are going to convert it to the percentages, you will have 5%. So there is only a 5% probability. There is only 5% chance that when you will going to roll a fair dice twice, you will going to get a sum equal to 11. If I will ask you, so that's the tree way to build it. There is another technique you can build, calculate the probability, and you can count all those total number of events. That is in the form of a box. What the hell is going on here? Why am I not doing this? Okay, now it's working. So we can display it in the form of a box. What you need, whether it's a coin, whether it's a dice, does not make any difference. That you can just build a table like this, and they can be presented in the form of a table instead of a tree. So here you just need to write 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. And here you need to replicate as well: 1, 2, 3. So that will be your second trial: 4, and then 5, and then 6. So it will be like this. If you add them: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now if I will ask you, That what's the probability of getting a number 9? So number 9 will be here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 over 36. So 1 by 9. What's the probability of getting a number 6?
6 by 36.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5.
Sorry, 5.
5 over 36. And what's the probability of getting a number 7? You can convert them into the percentages.
6.
That will be 30.
6.
0.1388. That will be equal to 14% approximately. So the probability of getting a number 7 is 6 by 36. So it will be 1 by 6. And if I am going to say it, that the probability of getting a number 7 is higher than sum of probability of number 9, 10 and 11. Is it true? Of number 7 is higher than sum of probabilities of 10, 11 and 12. Is this statement correct? No, this is wrong.
Yes, sir.
No, this is not correct. The probability of getting a number 10 is 3 by. So probability of 10 is equal to 3 by 36, and the probability of getting a number 11 is equal to 2 by 36, and probability of getting a number 12 is 1 by 36. So that sums up to, if you are going to take the LCM, 3 by 36 plus, you have to add them because it's telling me sum of probabilities. 2 by 36 plus 1 by 36. So it will be 36 divided by 3 plus 2, 5 and plus 6 by 36. And that is equal to the probability of getting a number 7. So why I practice you all that what I want to tell you, that if you want to know the total number of events, and the events, they are independent. For example, if you are going to toss a dice for the first time, you get a result, and then you toss a coin for the second time. Those results, they will be absolutely independent. Do you think will they have any effect on that, whether you will going to head in the first trial or you will going to get a tail in the first trial? Will it have any effect on second tossing?
Yes, sir.
How it will have an effect? Here the events, they are independent. First condition is that the events, they are independent. If you toss first time, if you are going to toss a coin first time, it can get a head and a tail, but that will not have any effect on when you are going to toss a coin second time. It can get a head and a tail, and it will be independent of your first trial. That has nothing to do with first trial. Are you getting this point?
Yes, sir.
So events, they are independent. Secondly, the event should be mutually exclusive. What do I mean by mutually exclusive? That if you are going to get a tail in the outcome, it becomes impossible for the head to be in the outcome. So these two outcomes, they cannot occur together. So if you are calculating probability of such situation, in that case, we have a simple formula to calculate total number of outcomes, and that is we just need to square it, n square. N refers to the total number of outcomes that are possible in a trial. So what do I mean by this? That if you are going to toss a coin single time, so the total number of outcomes in a single trial will be 2 and it will be raised to power 1. So that will be equal to 2. If you want to know that how many total outcomes are there, if you are going to toss a coin couple of times, so 2 square, that will be equal to 4. If you are going to toss a coin 3 times, and then it will be, I can just write a word k. So it will be 2 raised to power 3. So your total number of events will be 8. If you are going to toss a coin 4 times, so just need to raise to power that. Your total number of events will be 16. And if you are going to toss a coin 5 times, your total number of events will be 32. Is it clear? And same also applies to the dice as well. So your total number of outcomes in a single trial is 6. And then if you are going to roll a dice only one time, it will be 6. If you are going to roll a dice twice, it will be 36. If you are going to roll a dice 3 times, how many total outcomes are there? I think it's 206. That will be 216. If you are going to roll a dice 4 times, how many total outcomes are there? $1296. That's how well. If the events they are mutually exclusive, they are independent. In this way, you can calculate the total number of events. And once you know the total number of events, then you just need to look for the number of favorable events. So there are some definitions that are important with reference to the probability. First is the sample space. Sample space refers to the set of all possible outcomes of an experiment. How much space is available there? Total space. So in case of a coin, you have an option of head and you have a tail. In case of a dice, you have 6 as sample space. So it's possible that it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's your total sample space. And these are all possible outcomes that are possible. And event, any subset of a sample space is known as event. For example, if you are going to toss a coin, an event will going to occur. You can have a head and you can have a tail. So that will be referred as event. Empty set means nothing. And I think you are already familiar. Equally likely events mean the event they have equal chance of occurrence, like head and tail. They have equal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All these events they have an equal chance of occurrence. But when we go to the biology, we will going to use the biological examples. We do not have all the time 50% chance. For example, maybe the probability of a disease is 10%. That means the occurrence of an event is not 50-50. It's 10-90%. And in that case, you need to consider as well. So you have equally likely events, and sometimes the events they are not equally likely. What is complement? Maybe you have read that kind of thing. Complement of an event means you include everything else other than that event. For example, if on a dice you have a 2, and if someone will ask you what is the complement of 2, so it will be everything else, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The complement of any event A means non-occurrence of event A. Anything else other than the A, that is referred as the complement of any. And then mutually exclusive event, one is possible, another is not possible. Elementary event, the event having a single element or a sample place. So it has only one single element. Independent event mean I already gave you an example of an independent event that if one event will going to happen, there is no chance that there will be another event. For example, in a single trial, either head can appear as an outcome or you can have a tail in the outcome. These two events, they cannot happen together. But there are certain situations when we'll go to the examples of biology. For example, I can give you an example of independent event. An independent event can be your disease status. It's not possible that a person can be healthy as well as disease at the same time. If someone is malaria positive, that person is positive, that cannot be negative. But if someone is negative for the malaria, that cannot be positive for the malaria at the same time. So those events, they are independent. They are mutually exclusive events. Sorry, I used previous example. So these events, they are mutually exclusive events. If one will going to occur, another event will not going to occur. So using an example of disease, either someone can be positive for the disease and someone can be negative for the disease. And they both of them, they cannot occur together. But in biology, you will going to see inclusive events as well. For example, a same person can have fever, can have headache, can have vomiting at the same time. So these events, they are not mutually exclusive. But another example, disease status, presence or absence of disease, so they are mutually exclusive event. Independent event, that the occurrence of one event does not affect the another event. So if you have a head or a tail in your first trial, it has nothing to do with second trial. In second trial, you can get a head and tail. While dependent event, in case of dependent events, if one event occurs in the outcome, that will going to influence the second trial. And now the probability will going to change. What do I mean by this? An example of a dependent event. Have you seen the cards? Anyone played the cards previously? So there are 50, okay, there are 52 cards by default. And there are 4 different kinds of stuff there. You have hearts there. So you have 13 cards of hearts, and then you have 13 cards of spades, and then you have another 13 card. I do not remember that, and then you have 13 cards. So it appears like 52. So when you are going to declare it as white and a black, so you have 26 black cards and you have 26 red cards. So if from a deck of those cards, what's the probability of getting if we have all 52 cards, what's the probability of getting a red card? 26 by 52, that is 1 by 2, that is 50%. But once that event has occurred, now you have what you are left with. Now you are left with 51 cards. And in that 51 cards, let's suppose if the previous card was a red card, now you have the probability of the second event change. Now you have 25 red cards that are left. So now the probability of black cards has also changed, and probability of red cards, it has also changed after first event. After second event, once again it will change again. So in case of dependent events, if one event will going to occur in an outcome, it will going to affect the second event. And now the probability will be changed. Is it clear? Is it clear? Just feel comfortable and ask if you have any question.
So can you please repeat this cards thing again? I didn't get it.
Okay. So let's suppose in a deck of a card, you have red cards and you have black cards. So you have 26 red cards and you have 26 black cards. So total they are 52. If I will ask you what's the probability of getting a red card?
26 by 52.
That is 0.5. So here you will have a probability of 0.5 and here you will have a probability of 0.5. So for example, if one event has occurred and you have removed a red card, in the outcome you get a red card and that red card got removed. Now what you are left with after first event? Your total number of cards now
51.
51. And how many red cards are there?
25.
25, because one card is being already removed. So now, do you think it will have the same probability it was previously?
No.
Now the probability of red card will going to reduce. Previously it was 0.5 exactly. Now what's the probability of red card? 25 divided by total number is 51. That will be 0.49 something. So occurrence of one event has influenced the probability in the second event. And let's suppose if I get the red card once again. So now how many red cards you have now? 24. And this is 26. And that will be equal to 50. And now what's the probability of red card? 24 by 50. And what's the so now the occurrence of second event has also influenced the third event, and now the probability once again has changed. And now in this case the probability of red card keep on reducing with time, while the probability of getting a black card is keep on increasing. So these are dependent events. That occurrence of one event influence the second event. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You are welcome. So normally there are various approaches to the probability. One is the classical approach, and other one is the frequency approach, and subjective approach, and axiomatic approach. We are going to discuss one hour then. So these are all number of favorable outcomes and then divided by total number of outcomes. And here you have an example of dice. We already discussed it. And here how you can identify the sample space, what is complement, and we have already discussed everything. So do you have any question regarding to this point? You know all these examples, we already discussed them. Is it clear? What's the probability of getting a number 4? So whenever we need to calculate the probability, we write the word P, and then in the bracket we just declare whatever we want. Probability of getting a number 4, that will be 1 by 6. And what's the probability of getting a number 8? If a fair dice is being tossed. Number 8 is not in the sample space, so it will be 0 by 6. That means that is equal to 0, so that event will not going to occur. You do not have a number 8 on dice. So these are all just examples. So sample space, do you have any question regarding this? So now we're going to discuss some rules. One is the rule of addition. So the sum of probabilities of all mutually exclusive event outcome is equal to 1. That's the rule of addition. What do you mean by this? Let me move to other one. And they have created all that complicated stuff. Let me create a So rule of addition, that sum of probabilities of all mutually exclusive event is equal to 1. That's the additional rule. So I will going to take an example of a coin. In the outcome, you have a head and you have a tail. At any time when I want to write the probability of head, so I will going to write it like this: probability of head, and then I will going to equal it, and that will going to say it will be 1 by 2. And then what's my second event? It's the probability of tail. Probability of tail, and that will also equal to 1 by 2. So what's the addition? Rule of addition tells us that sum of so as far as these events is concerned, they are mutually exclusive events. These events, they cannot happen together. And for those events that cannot happen together, the sum of their probabilities is always equal to 1. So what do we mean by this? That probability of head plus probability of tail is equal to, must be equal to 1. So another way to say it, that probability of head, and I can just come out of union, and then I will going to write on like tail, is equal to probability of head plus probability of tail. And what's the probability of head? 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2, and what I will going to get? 2 by 2, and that is equal to 1. So when events, they are mutually exclusive, the sum of probabilities of all events will be equal to 1. Have you understood what I have tried to communicate? Just feel comfortable and ask.
Yes, sir.
So instead of head and tail, they just use this number like this. That instead of writing, they here in this example, what is going on here? So they use the word probability, and instead of writing head and tail, they use the word journal like A and B. And here you have a union. Probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B. And if the events, they are not mutually exclusive, so it will be like this. You can write it like probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. What does this mean? For any event, the rule of addition, that at any time event when you need to add A union B, in that case you have to subtract everything that is in between them. So that this is the concept I was going to tell you. For example, if you have a space for the A here, and then you have a space for the B here, and those events, they are not mutually exclusive, rather they share some space in between them. So that's the common zone in between them. So if you want to unite them, what's the rule here? So if you are going to calculate probability of A union B, in that case, if you just add them, because the events here, they are not mutually exclusive, because there is something that is being shared between them. So if you are going to follow simply rule of addition, then you will going to write PA plus PB. In that case, you are doing something wrong, because you have replicated that area. So when you are going to add probability of A, it will be in that circle, and when you are going to write down the B, once again it will going to occupy. So that will be repeated. So in order to eliminate that error, what you need to do, that you have to subtract from here probability of A intersection B. That is the area that is common between them. So that's the rule of addition. That for any event, and that event must not be mutually exclusive, probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. So it's not N, it's in intersection. So they represent it like N. So it's not intersection, it's probability of A intersection B, so it's not N. Secondly, when events, they are mutually exclusive, I already gave you an example that When events they are mutually exclusive, probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus B, because there is no area that is in between them. But here they have an area share, that's why you need to subtract it. For independent variables A and B, probability of A intersection B, so it's in intersection. Probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A into probability of B, multiplication rule. For independent variables, multiplication rule. For two dependent variables, one variable depends on another and there is a common zone between them. So it will be like this, probability of A into probability of B given A. You haven't read something like this, B given A. So I will going to show you all that stuff. Do you have any questions? Just feel comfortable and ask. You have 2 minutes to ask if you have any question. Just feel free and ask. इसको सेट करें. Do you have any question?
No, sir.
What fraction of it is clear? How much you are confused? To this point.
It's clear to this point.
And then we'll go. Give me a couple of minutes and then we'll start. So what terms you were going to see symbols, all those, because you are all biologists, do not have a lot of background, so I will going to share something like this. So at any time when you will, they will going to mention the probability, they will going to mention it like this with a P, either it's a capital P or small p. Now most of the time when we write it in capital, but maybe in that PowerPoint you are going to see a small p, that's an error. So it's a probability. And then you need to write in bracket whatever you want to calculate. If you want to calculate head, write down head. If you want to calculate tail, write down tail. If you want to calculate about the number, write down that number. So when you want to add something, so it will be like this, probability of A union B. And you can just replace it with head and tail for your understanding. They normally use the word. So that union sign is something, it's a symbol of addition. Do you have any question? Do you have any question? If you do not have any question, please mute your mic. Okay, thank you. Someone muted me. That's that bad. These are bad manners. Please do not do this. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there is someone who muted me. So next time I will not going to give you access if you are going to play like this. So the probability, and at any time when you want to add something, it's like union, A union B. You are going to see the symbol of union. At any time when you will going to see what's common between A and B, so here you will going to see a sign of intersection. Hopefully you just read it in maybe in geometry or something like this. even in mathematics. And then this symbol may be a new symbol for you. So you already know the union, it's addition. You already know the intersection, that is common between them. And then there is this kind of symbol, and it's written like this: probability of A given B. So it will appear like this: probability of A given B. So this is given sign. This is how it read. That you want to calculate a probability in a given situation. So it's given B. And then somewhere in the literature, you're going to see a term like A complement. This refers to the B complement. U refers to the universal set. Universal set means that includes everything. So now we need to switch to those slides. So for dependent events, we have this uniform formula for conditional probability. That probability of A intersection B, that is a probability that is in a specific condition. It's not normal probability. Probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A multiplied by probability of B given A. And that's the formula for conditional probability. And we haven't discussing conditional probability to this point, but we're going to discuss the conditional probability when we're going to calculate the sensitivity and the specificity of. So in biology, where that conditional probability is more applied when we calculate the sensitivity and the specificity. Specificity of a diagnostic assay. So it's simple like probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A into probability of B given A, because that calculation is within a specific conditions. So this is an example. Please note that out of that's an example from biology. क्या है? क्या कह रहे हैं? ओके ठीक है, ये आपने अपने पास ही ओके, ये मैंने उनको दे दिया। आप अभी इधर ही हैं, जितने दिन इधर हैं ना, जब जाएंगे तो साथ ठीक है। लेट मी म्यूट, एक मिनट म्यूट करना। Accept my apologies for delay. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Will it be possible for you people to take a break of 1 hour, and I have some assignment, and then I will come back and then take the remaining class? Is it okay? I know you are all very, very much cooperative people. Is it okay?
Sir, in some area there is voltage issue, that's why we can't take class.
Voltage issues in the evening only?
Also at daytime.
Okay, in that case, how can I help you? My apologies for this, but secondly, we have all these lectures on YouTube. So you can go through with those lectures at any time you want. Anyone has any problem with this? So we can continue after maybe 1 hour or 2 hours. Is it okay for you? Just feel comfortable and tell me.
सर आज जाने से कल ले